Hey everybody, Dr. Keith here. Hope you're doing well. Happy Wednesday, February 3rd. So in the chat box, folks, I did just put my YouTube channel in there. I think most of you are subscribed to it, but if not, it's there if you want. That way, anytime I do some free updates and so forth, you're there for that. Okay. All right. So again, welcome everybody. Good to see some familiar faces. Are there any? First of all, can you see the charts? Okay, folks. I want to make sure you can see those. Excellent. Thanks, John. Good to hear from you here. Okay, so it's been an interesting week since we talked. Obviously, we've had the media frenzy with all the craziness with GameStop and Reddit and everything, and I'm sure a lot of you have now subscribed to Reddit and you've got your trading plans now, right? No, but it is crazy. I mean, I admit I've seen a lot of things in this business, and I think it's pretty cool that something as powerful as social media can be can definitely be game changers, right? So we always look at ways that we can look to take advantage of that stuff, right? Exactly, Daryl. So we're going to talk a little bit about that towards the end here. I don't think we'll go an entire hour today, but we'll see how things take us. But I want to start with Bitcoin. So as I mentioned, January, typically we have a down move. It wasn't real significant in regards to Bitcoin, but we did have the move, right? And then we had our triggers. So again, if you were looking to trade, Bitcoin, you had your entry here and you're doing well for yourself. And again, the reason why I like to show examples like this is to show you that there's never a system that's perfect, but there's so many times when something's coming back down and you want to buy it, right? You want those retracements so that you have a buying opportunity. And this is where I really believe Hackenacci can help you because look at that. I mean, it told you can see the wicks here as well, right? But you don't even have to overthink that if you don't have a lot of experience in candlesticks and that. The bottom line is we had a Laguerre trigger and green Hackenacci, so now is your entry, okay? Whether it works out or not, you have an entry point. You have rules. That's way easier than trying to pick a bottom, okay? Way easier than trying to pick a bottom. So, let me just expand this just a little bit. So again, if you're new to Hackenacci, check out my YouTube videos. I've got one on Hackenacci, but the bottom line is, when you have the red candles, right, you look for the reversal and then you have your green. The white line is then actual price I had programmed in of the open, and then the red is the close. Okay, so like today, you can see the green Hackenacci on Bitcoin. That's a solid bullish move still. In this case, price has gone up, right, from the open to the close. But more importantly, there's no reason yet at this point to think we're at a top on Bitcoin, right? It's a very, very solid Hackenacci green candle, okay? And again, that's why I kind of go over this week after week, trying to just, give people ideas, suggestions, based off of these type of moves, okay? And obviously, I don't have seasonality yet on Bitcoin, but I do have seasonality on things that relate highly to Bitcoin, okay? All right, so crude oil. So we've talked about oil, week in and week out, where, since the typical seasonal short that we had, we didn't have this, from here to left to right, we typically head lower until right now, and it's been heading higher, right? So that kept us out of that short trade. Okay, that's a big, big deal, even with seasonality, to know when there's a year that it's not following its pattern, right? But in saying that, then we said when we get a long trigger, you have a high confidence that now with the seasonal coming, the shorter term up until, mid-February, right? There's your burst forward to new highs. So I know a lot of you played it. The better way of playing this, in my opinion, would have been off the 4 hour. Just because you're not at highs then, and again, you had a nice Laguerre trigger, right here. And again, if you were in this off the 4 hour, though, look at that. Would you exit yet? Yeah, you probably exited part of your position, but would you exit the entire trade? I wouldn't, right? Because there's no reason. You still have a green dot. When is this going to end? Right? We don't know when this move is going to end. So let's get as much of it as we can. Okay. I was going to do crude in the alert service, and the reason I didn't was because it's been even though it's been in that nice uptrend, when it's not following its seasonal pattern, it's a little riskier. In this case, it was stronger than the seasonal, so it's a good play. But I try to only do the trades in the alert service that have the least amount of risk. Okay. One of those was the Swissy, and I got stopped out this week on Swissy. Okay. But you can see here, I went in off the trigger here, and we have we were basically towards the end of the seasonal pattern, through this week. But again, I liked it, and we had a combo trigger, but then it reversed. Okay. And because we had a normal nice seasonal here, I stayed in until my stop loss. Okay. Again, you have to have stop losses in futures. You have to have a plan. But the reason I wanted to show you this, you can be more those of you that trade futures, if you're using Hackenacci, you can even say, okay, I'm getting in this trade based off of that criteria, but then if I get a red dot, I'm out. So if I would have gotten out on 126, see all the money I would have saved? Okay. So there's two strategies. I've always had a defined stop loss, and why did I pick this stop loss? It was right below these wicks, right? So basically, if it was going to change trends on me, I wanted to get out. But you could have saved yourself a few pennies just by letting Hackenacci tell you that. Okay. So just a couple suggestions that you can look at based on your own risk tolerance. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at gold. Gold's another one that got me. So I had gold and Swissy knock me out. We were up on gold a little bit, but not enough for me to take profits. But again, what I do like about gold still, look at all this consolidation. Okay. And it's interesting enough. We have a down day so far today, but the Laguerre is trending up. Okay, you don't see that very often, and it's really just been in this consolidation mode, big picture though, right? So anyway, I'm not going to trade gold right now. I'm going to kind of let it iron out and break out, and then in all honesty, look for a short trade here coming up versus the long. Okay. Okay, bonds. So again, we had the initial breakout we were looking for, but remember I said I wanted to wait now to see if we get a higher low before I take the trade, right? And why was that? Because this is a nice downtrend, right? So even with the seasonal move coming right about now in another week or two, okay, I didn't want to take this first trigger. And you could have made enough money to get out of this trade. But really what I'm looking for is, this is kind of the key. If we make lower lows now, then again, I'm not looking to take that first new entry long again. I want to see a higher low, okay, before I enter that trade. That's usually a good indication of that trend reversal, okay? So who knows? Bonds could continue lower, but at some point it's going to give us a good entry point. Okay. We just got to be patient. Okay. All right. Let's talk Nasdaq. Oh, and by the way, some of you that have the 20/40/60. So a couple clients I was mentoring this week, their 20s are now populating. So, I mean, mine isn't. And yes, I did what you all probably tried to do. I reinstalled it. But so again, I just keep putting, calling Thinkorswim, telling them to keep working on their radar screens. But for some, it's starting to work. So that's the good news on the 20. Why 20 doesn't work with 40 and 60 does, again, I don't know what's going on with Thinkorswim. The other good news is over the last week, it's been loading much faster. So they're getting things fixed. Okay. So John, you're getting the 20. Okay. But for some reason, I'm still not. Okay. So, regardless, you can use 40. I mean, it's not the end of the world by any means, but we want to get that working as quickly as possible, obviously. Okay. Yeah, we're all. I recommend everybody keep complaining to TD Ameritrade because again, I think what's happened is they're growing. As more and more people are trying to trade now and so forth, right? And I have a feeling now, you know, with Robinhood having some potential issues there, more and more people are going to come to TD Ameritrade. So that's good news in a sense, but they need to have the technology that can handle all that new clientele, right? Yeah, and I'll talk about this for some of you new folks. Yeah, the seasonal here on the right. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So on the Nasdaq, again, we talked last week on last Wednesday, and I said, at the time, I was 50-50 on whether the market's going to continue up or not, right? Seasonally, it should have until about mid-February, right? And you can see that here on my seasonal indicator, okay? In fact, let me just fix something real quick so that you know which one is the 10-year. Let's see. I'm going to make it even wider for here just so you can see. The thicker one is the 10-year. Okay, and then this is the 5-year, which I don't use nearly as much, but I'm just showing it there for you. Okay, so we typically top mid-February, then we have that decline, just like it happened last year. And as we know, we had a bigger decline last year because of COVID, but we were planning on a short anyway. Okay, but again, this is where I think Hackenacci can really help you folks with the Laguerre triggers. Okay, we had the move down, and at this point, I wasn't sure what was going to happen because of one main reason. Retailers at the time were almost 50-50 again. Okay, so there was no significant advantage of retailers. Okay, now they've gone more short again. That's why we've headed higher with the seasonal move. But at the time, we weren't sure. Okay, but it keeps respecting this bottom band, right? In fact, on the Nasdaq, it hasn't even touched that bottom band. So, don't panic during these moves here. Okay, you just were waiting for indications, okay, that we're going to hit new highs, and we'll probably hit new highs now this week on the Nasdaq. At some point, we are going to roll over, because seasonally we do, and when it does, I do think we'll kind of probably come down to, I don't know, maybe 12,000, but that's not a market crash. That's just something that needs to happen. Okay, so I'm being careful. My live account on stocks, I'm doing puts and calls. And on a couple calls I have right now, I'm down a little bit, but I'm holding those. And the reason I got in those was they're seasonal short for one. And then two, I'm expecting the market at some point here to make that down move. Okay. So, the Nasdaq again, look at the Hackenacci today though. Okay. So price hasn't done much, right? It's basically up 30 points on the Nasdaq. That's not too much yet, right? It was been pretty volatile. But look at the Hackenacci. That is a solid green, again, demonstrating that we should continue higher. So am I expecting a burst higher? I am, absolutely. Even though we're at highs, we'll probably break to new highs, and then who knows what will happen when, one of these new highs is going to cause, people to get out of the trade, take profits, and take their losses and move on. Okay. We talked about the VIX last week as well, right? Remember I said when it spikes like this, let's go back a little bit. This is super important to understand, folks. So when we get the WIX above 30 here, you see how the market then, the VIX comes back down like it's doing right now? That was a very predictable move, especially look at these wicks, right? Just like we had here. And in this fact, we actually had divergence as well. I mean, that's about as good as it gets back in October, okay? But now we have it happen again, okay? Remember, fear, the VIX is the fear factor, right? When the VIX rises, okay, quickly like this, that's like when somebody, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was younger and I used to go to my grandparents, okay, I was a mean kid, I guess, because I used to hide behind the doors and stuff and scare my poor grandma, boo, right? And even though she knew I was doing it, I did it so much that she was always on edge and I scared her every single time. But when you scare somebody, right, you get their adrenaline going, but then it goes away, right? Well, that's kind of what I think of the VIX. When you get that fear heading higher, okay, it only can happen for so long. And you don't know exactly when it's going to end. But in this case, you know, you had Hackenacci tell you right here, and even the Laguerre, okay, for now it's over. People are back to normal. That scare, okay, that volatility is no longer in place at this point in time. And it doesn't mean it can't spike up again, right? But when you get the VIX climbing like this, folks, okay, that's telling you at some point we're going to have a rally. Okay, and then we can just wait for that to tell us when that's going to happen. Okay, I also love to sell credit on the VIX, which I actually like the VXX when that happens, because you can get a nice premium on that. And again, it typically falls really fast. So it goes up fast and then it'll fall back to some normal activity here. Okay, so keep an eye on that. You can go back in your charts and look. You know, you can look. So here's one where, again, it actually went up to 40, right? But then you had the Hackenacci telling you, okay, that's over, and there it went. Okay, so again, this is not difficult to figure out when we're going to head higher in the markets. We just don't know for how long that's going to happen, right? That's right, John. Absolutely. Okay. Once in a great while, though, they're correlated. We saw that happen. What was it? Late December or early January. I can't remember when that was when we had a correlation, but 99% of the time, especially when you have spikes, if the VIX spikes up, the indexes head down and vice versa. You got it. Okay, so again, keep an eye on that VIX. I know a lot of people forget about it. It's very powerful. Okay, so let's take a look at a few stocks. Well, dollar index. Okay, so here's an example, folks, where I told you I'm not trading the dollar index right now because we have a move up until late February, but then it's really more sideways. Like I don't see a significant advantage, right? But here's where you had a higher low. So this is what I was talking about. Okay, when you have a massive downtrend, I don't take this first trigger. Okay, even though it would have worked out trading futures, that's fine. Okay, what I look for is it to come back down and then make a higher low. Okay, I'm sorry, a lower high. I always missay that. Once that happens, then that's a new entry. Okay, and again, I didn't take that trade. Okay, but that was legitimately following the seasonal pattern and following rules. Does that make sense? Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we'll definitely look at the grains, Kirby. No worries at all. Okay. All right. Bear with me, folks. I'll be back in 1 second. All right, sorry about that, folks. Okay, so this is just a perfect example that if you're looking to go long though, okay, once that green Hackenacci dot, okay, that was a potential entry point. Okay, I wouldn't have entered here only because the Laguerre was still heading down. My actual entry point would have been right here when you have the green dot still and then the Laguerre crossed up. Okay, so right here is really my entry point. Again, I didn't enter this, I'm just kind of holding off, but again, you have rules, right? And it makes it really easy to when to enter these type of trades. Whether it works out or not, right? They're going to work out more than they don't, but you have rules instead of agonizing on when should I enter. The actual entry is pretty easy using this type of a trading system. Okay. Okay, let's see here. So let's take a look at Tesla. So here's another example that, if you're bullish Tesla, we typically have, what I'm looking to pick up some shares of Tesla is going to be after the retracement, a bigger retracement if it happens. Typically you can see here, those of you that are new to this seasonal indicator, this is actually it looks very similar to the ones everyone else has. I just have a couple things, I'm testing some things out, but the red is the 10-year forecast. So you can see here, typically this is a weekly chart. So from 215 down to 315, we typically have a move down in Tesla because most of the markets typically head down. Then we have the move up. So I'm actually hoping to pick up additional shares. We have another retracement and then in March, pick it up. But if you were bullish here, here's your entry again, right? Again, the odd thing is look at the Laguerre though, it's still trending down, okay? So being that close to highs, again, I wouldn't enter yet. We also had that divergence here at the high right here that had that little retracement. So Tesla's, I think you need to wait for more of a discount in my opinion. Okay, so let me see. Somebody wants to look at wood. Yeah, so wood's a good example. Again, we're getting a lot of that where you're seeing the Laguerre continuing, right? But the Hackenacci is saying it's time to go, okay? But I like wood. We typically top on this, this week before we have that retracement though. So if you're looking to get in here, you probably want shorter, tighter profits, in my opinion. I do think we'll have a retracement before, and then you can see the seasonal pattern on wood, okay, for the rest of the year. Big picture is more to the downside. So is that 83.74 the high for the year? At least I should say till summer. Very, very possible, or you may end up getting a double top and then it rolls over, okay? But, if you got into this, during this move, here's an example where if you got in here, you might have exited right here, made a nice move, then you got in 2 days later again, right? And then you exited right here. So again, super simple rules to help manage those trades, but yet not say, what, I made a little bit of money, it's time to get out, right? Don't do that. Maximize your wins, folks. That's how you build accounts, okay? All right, so GameStop. What do you think, folks? So I had some people ask me when this happened, and again, this was kind of new to me, so if I'm not sure on something, I'm not going to act like I know, because, having retailers like Reddit that was pretty powerful, was not something I've seen lately. What I did think was going to happen though, is when you have this type of move that fast, okay, at some point you're gonna have this move down, because let's face it, as much heat and much money as those institutions lost here, right? They have much wider pockets though. And so I think a couple of things going on right now. I think that there's more shorts coming in, but I also believe that even folks like the Reddit folks, okay, when they made money up here, it's good to say and say publicly they're going to hang on. But when they made a nice profit, right, they don't want to get in and make money up to 400 and then have it do what it's done now, right? I mean, so, publicly they might say, yeah, stay in, but they're getting out, okay, and the price is showing that. But so anyway, though, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens again. One of the things that I'm seeing here is that the open short float, is over 100%. And what that means is, they're still heavily shorted GameStop. So once the price does continue up again, you're going to get panic, just like we had here. This is panic. These are shorts getting out of their position, okay? And I do think it'll happen again, okay? So again, if you tried to short this, you did a put, that sound logical. I didn't, because it was such an irregularity. We didn't know. I mean, Reddit's a big community, or whoever you want to call retailers, traders. If they're all going to put their money into a stock, nobody can stop them. Okay, but what's happened is they've taken profits. They just don't want to admit it. Okay, so but I do think this could potentially happen again. Okay. Yeah, this is these are higher risk trades, folks. So so I mean, it always sounds great, but we have a better trading plan than trying to pick something crazy like this. Okay. Okay, so I've got a few requests. So let me just actually start hitting some of those so we have time. Okay, so I don't have seasonal data on HOFV. Okay. I don't even like it from a chart perspective, to be honest, because there's no defined. I mean, if anything, if I had to pick a direction, right, it's been in a major downtrend. So once this move come and we got a triggered short, I'd be more into shorting this, but there's not as much room to the downside anyway. So I would kind of leave this one alone personally. So a lot of these cheaper stocks, folks, I don't toy around with. Now I understand if you're doing it to try to hit some home runs, absolutely. Here the seasonal's down, basically until mid-October. So once this, this could be resistance right at $1.90 to roll back over. Okay. But again, not something I would typically trade here. But this could be the day, right? You could have the red Hackenacci. Then if you get another one, you'll get a red dot. That could be your potential short entry here. And with the seasonal, it matches, and you've got your wicks right at that price there as as an opportunity. Okay, Alan. Okay. All right. So let me talk about a couple of things. So some data mining. Okay. So this typically will start breaking out, specifically after March, and that's one of my favorites. So just keep an eye on AON. It's just been in this major channel. I assume when the markets do head down, this will head down with it, but then it'll head higher. Who knows? Maybe earnings will push it and do something as well here on earnings. But this is something that typically starts going higher, up until summertime. It's one of my favorite things to look at during this coming up in March. Okay. BKNG. Again, is this a potential entry? You got your dots, right? We got room to the new highs. You've got your left to right seasonal heading higher. Again, very expensive stock. Okay. But again, if you're looking to enter, the rules are here, right? Your entry was here. Okay. So now again, more than likely, which is the old price line, right? That this is going to retest those highs. The cool thing about it was it basically told you when to get in versus just trying to guess where the bottom is, right? Because this could have kept going. We don't really know, right? But then all of a sudden you had the reversal, the Hackenacci saying, okay, keep an eye on this, and then the next bar over, you got your green dot. Okay. So keep an eye on that one. Okay, a couple others here I want to bring up, if I can type properly today. So CE, basically now through April, this has a 16% move on the underlying. Okay. 14 out of 15 years of data. So earnings is over. You got your trigger today. What do you think? Good opportunity, maybe? Okay. I may do an alert. This may be part of my alert for tomorrow morning. I do like this a lot. Okay. And the only difference is you can look at the next 4 weeks typically head lower before the big move up. Okay. So the only thing I'm hesitant on, again, from a data mining perspective, it's giving me the dates through April. Okay. So if we're going to take heat first, we might as well wait and then look, but you can probably get a nice hit long before it reverses and then heads higher. Okay, so this is an opportunity. Just keep in mind, from a seasonal, we typically start reversing right about now. Okay, but certainly if you have on your watch list for March into April, okay, CE is a great stock to trade long. Okay. Same with BFB. Basically, folks, Brown Forman Corp. This is headed higher of about roughly 20% between now and the start of June. Okay, so roughly 20% move between now and June. So again, you got to say, well, there's that dip first. You can definitely wait. Those of you that like to do longer term options though, like with a summer expiration, this could be a good opportunity for you. The other strategy you can do if you're going to do that is, let's say you would normally do 5 contracts, or let's say 6 contracts for math. Okay, go in at half size. That way, if it then does come back down during the typical move down, you can then scale another 3 for this nice move coming. That way, if it ignores this and it continues higher, you still have 3 contracts in the in your trade. But if it doesn't, if it comes back down, then you can when you get that new entry, you can put another 3 contracts. Make sense? So that's always a way to be more aggressive. Do smaller size. If it works out right away, great. You still made money. But then if it doesn't, you can add into your position, yet you're not over adding, right? You don't want to double your position that you're not comfortable with, right? It's all about that money management, okay? It is, yep. Okay, so, Google, right? See, again, the white forecasted line is what should have been happening, right? We basically top right around the end of next week. So again, just following the re-enter process here, you never know when it's going to really make the move up. But look at that Hackenacci today, right? It gapped up from earnings. But again, that's a strategy you can play. It's just a little bit riskier because of earnings. But remember, the seasonal indicator has these, right? It has these earnings within that formula, right? So what it's telling you is, because of that seasonal top, is that we typically have good earnings on Google during this first quarter release, okay? And so you can certainly get into the trade with a trigger and hold on. There's always risk involved in that, though. I mean, certainly I do that, not publicly because of the potential gaps to the other direction, but you can use the seasonal indicator to forecast what should happen, right? I mean, that's what it's there for. There's a lot of different strategies. I just won't get into a trade the day before earnings, but certainly you can look at stocks like that typically are understating their earnings or whatever, so that it purposely will pop, like Google does. Okay. Okay, so let me bring you a couple examples here of something I'm looking at. Okay, so when new things happen, folks, then we look at ways to make money off it, right? So Webull Corporation, okay, right now they have what we call short float of about 66%, okay? And what that means is institutions and so forth are heavily shorting this. We like to see it around 30% or greater to have any sort of significance, okay? So how could that potentially add value? Well, if you know that, okay, back here when we had this move up on the Laguerre, triggering back up with a green dot, okay, what's going to happen is eventually as price heads up, what's happening to those people that are short? Are they sleeping well at night? No, right? I mean, And institutions are losing millions of dollars every time it goes against them, right? So what happens is, that's what they mean when they say a short squeeze. Okay, price goes higher because it's going higher anyway, but then all of a sudden people freak out, whether it's institutions, individual investors, and they start covering those shorts, right? Because they had to borrow the stock, they sold the stocks, and they borrowed that money to do that, and then all of a sudden now the stock's going higher, they were wrong, and that's how you get these panic sells, and that's how you get these big moves quickly. Okay, so if we know stocks, a list of stocks that have a high short float, okay, then what you can do is, and again, the reason I like this as an example, even from a seasonal, we like that, okay? I'm not saying this strategy needs to be used with seasonal, but in this case, we even had that, saying, okay, we typically had higher anyway. So, again, this is, something I traded. I just learned on this and I'm studying it. But I just wanted to point out that if you know something has a high float, short float, okay, you're going to get a pop at some point. Okay, so this was one example as I was doing my research. Let me give you a couple more. BTRS is a 40% short float. Okay, so now we've got the look gear and the dots. Okay, and now it's heading higher. So there's no seasonal data on this, right? So you're not trading with the seasonal advantage, but if you know that there's a pretty high short float to this, here's what I think is going to happen. If this continues higher based off of the trigger system, right? If we continue higher, at some point, you're going to spook all those folks that are short again, and they're going to have to cover those positions, and we'll get a big move up, potentially, right? This is what I'm studying. So I don't normally release things like this or even bring something up if I haven't had enough hours in the, in the lab per se. But I think this is pretty cool. And I just wanted to give you a thought so you can do your own studying on this as well. Okay, so we'll see. We'll talk about BTRS next week. We don't know when it's going to pop. Okay, is it going to pop tomorrow, next week? But I do think if this continues up, where they're going to have that panic sell, which have the quick move up on this. Okay, so if you got into a play now, as an example on an option play, right, you could potentially, do really well on some of these. Okay. Again, it's a little bit more speculative if it doesn't have seasonal, but the ones that have the seasonal as well could be extremely useful for you. Okay, let's see here. Bear with me, let me grab one more. Okay. So here's another one. This is interesting. Okay, so the short float on Revlon is 48%. Okay, so what I'm looking at, interesting in, typically we now have a seasonal short coming on Revlon. Okay, and so here, when we had all this short float, once we got the trigger, okay, we had the quick move up, right? Quick move up. Right now it's heading back lower. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see in a case like this, that are we going to have another panic sell as we get another trigger long and we continue up? Are we going to get another spike up, or is it going to follow the season where maybe we continue to build those shorts before it explodes? Okay, so again, this is some of the things I'm kind of testing out, and I'll keep bringing it up in these weekly to give you an idea, because these could be some ways to make some really good returns with that type of short float. Okay. All right. All right, let me bring up weeklies here. So you can see it's loading faster now, still not as fast as what it has, but it's not giving me the 20 data yet, but yet others are getting it. So yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's not an issue with my indicator. It's a think or swim, but it's something we're looking at. So again, we're getting some long, right? The lighter green, right, is where it hasn't gone above the 0.2, but it's trending up. You can look at something that's got a move coming, so like DVN, okay? You can see here that you got earnings coming up, so let's skip that one. Let's look at some of these other ones. ALGN, so you got a move coming, you've got triggers. We do have a lot of earnings coming up right now. So again, typically, that is baked in. Now, let me tell you, most times that's going to work in your advantage, but it is a riskier trade to get in right before earnings. Okay. All right, AXP, we got a move coming, right? We had a trigger here. So again, you can find some good trades every day by just scanning and seeing if it's matching what we're looking for to be profitable. Okay. AIG. You can see here, we're basically getting ready for that decline now. You've got ADSK, that's looking good as a longer term option play heading higher, right? Was this the bottom? But again, see how well the Hackenacci typically picks the bottoms here with the Laguerre. And that's where a lot of traders struggle is they want to go long, they just don't know when, okay? And it's coming really close, right? Really close to the overall bottom, which is impossible to do consistently, but it's close enough, right? It's close enough. A lot of these are topping coming up, right? They're topping. There's another good combo here on Bank of America. If you're looking for, short opportunities, you can take a look to see, what we have available on the minus 1.0s as well. I am going to do a combination between the two. And then I'll probably get more short in mid-February, if and when we see things turn to the direction that I think they are going to. Pretty much every February, mid-February, they do head lower, okay? Let's see here. Anything else you want me to look at here while I'm looking for my notes? The FAZ. You can see here it's rolling back over in the direction of that seasonal move. If you're looking for the shorts, ENDP. So ENDP typically has a nice dip coming, as you can see here from the indicator, okay? Typically, probably what that means, right, is we got divergence here. This one was a fake out divergence. Now we got another one. So we're really close to a high here on ENDP, more than likely. And then it's going to have a pretty nice move down. Again, wait for it to happen. Don't predict it. Oh, yeah. So, Bill, this right here is the Laguerre. So it just is helpful when something goes into the green and out, okay, or into the red and then out, okay, it'll show it as here. So, for example, if you click on Acadia, okay, this is a light green, meaning it's in the middle, heading up. So that way you can find and scan real quickly to see, if in fact, you're looking to enter that. The darker greens, like if we got COF, okay, it already came out of that, okay? But you can look at all of your stock you like to look at and quickly see if there's any long or short triggers with the Laguerre. Okay, I only take them in the direction if there's a seasonal advantage. Okay, but many traders don't. They'll take triggers, based on their own strategies as well, because the Laguerre is a very powerful, very powerful trigger. Okay, so here's an example Obviously with GameStop, right, you had the short trigger here. So it shows up here and you can sort, by longs and shorts, so if you're looking for longs, you can go back and forth. I like to then match it with, with a seasonal move, personally, like, Expedia, right? You got the trigger, you've got another week or two, and then a bigger move. Okay. Then you got a bigger move. So if I was doing this type of option play on Expedia, I would do it with roughly a June, July expiration to try to get that bigger move on that. Okay. But that's all that is that's the radar screen to show you when something is triggering for that. Okay. Make sense? Like look at Costco, right? So, the problem with Costco right now is I'm not really even that concerned about earnings, coming a month away. We're starting to get some consolidation though. Okay. But, if you're looking to get into Costco, I would look to do almost a trade for the year, because one thing I can pretty much tell you with pretty high certainty, right? Unless something fundamentally goes wrong with Costco, it's going to hit new highs this year. So this is giving you a potential entry right here, right? But what I don't like is that like Gare's pointing down today. So at this point, since we're not in the trade, I would wait to see if the next candle, is an up green Hackenacci. But where the seasonal can really be helpful for you is that it allows you to see how far out that seasonal is. You can still do shorter term options, right? But if you're looking for hit some bigger moves longer term, right? That's how that can help you on that seasonal side. Okay. Caterpillar, it kind of has a zigzagging, but then higher, so again, you're getting a lot of triggers that will match, a shorter term move. You could do a 6-week out expiration and, probably hit new highs before it heads lower. So big picture, when you see a lot more green than red, especially on the SIG, okay, more than likely the markets are going to follow that overall direction as well, because these are, again, some of the higher probability opportunities that we're looking at, from a seasonal perspective. Okay. I had one person ask about Netflix earlier. Let me bring that up. So again, as a potential re-entry, right? Netflix made its nice move up. That was very anticipated, right? Very, very anticipated. And now is it a potential re-entry? It is, right? It is. Now the only asterisk there is, again, if you want to hold, maybe go in part size, because I do think we'll have a decline before then it heads higher. So let's say again, you're going to do 2 contracts, maybe do 1, and then if it makes it, you're good. If it comes back down, you can add in. But Netflix between now and the end of the year will make new highs with extremely high probabilities as well. So it's giving you your opportunities here. Again, during the fall, you just kind of wait it out, and then you let the indicators tell you when it's time to re-enter. Okay. So this season, the way I have it set up, this red line, this thicker one is 10 years. Okay, you can change that. You can click edit studies and change it to 15 or 20, and the lighter one is 5. I don't use the 5 as often. Really, the only time I really use it is for 2 reasons. If there's not 10 years of something, or if I want to see if the 5 and the 10-year are matching, like Netflix is matching pretty nicely, right? But yeah, so 10 years is a sweet spot, when you're looking for these type of trades with the Laguerre off the daily. And again, this is a weekly, a weekly chart. Very, very powerful to know that seasonal movement. Okay. All right, folks. Well, if you have any questions, again, you can always email me, support@seasonaltraderpro. If for some reason I don't answer within 24 hours, I'm not ignoring you, whether it's good or bad. I'm trying to, there's always spam issues nowadays, okay, the way that they're doing it. But, You can also text me. This is my cell phone, and I'll get back to you. Okay, let me know who you are though. Sure, I can look at PG, but I'm not trying to ever ignore anybody. So again, if I don't respond, I didn't get it, okay, or I missed it. So Procter and Gamble, big picture, we kind of, because it's been, here's a great example. So I'm glad you brought it up. Left to right, the white line is saying Procter and Gamble should have went higher between 11.9 and now. What's happened? It's gone lower. So again, you financial analysts out there, there's probably a reason for it. I don't care. All I know is that for whatever reason, it's not following its seasonal pattern, okay? So I don't want to go long on Procter & Gamble. What I would be more into is if we get a retracement though, and then when we get into that mid-February, I would absolutely short Procter & Gamble because then it's going back to the seasonal move and it's been weaker than the long, right? If that makes sense. So that's where this indicator can be extremely useful. This white line is kind of telling you what the news has been telling you, okay? Because this is what should have happened. It's gone lower, so we don't want to take longs right now. We're only looking for shorts coming up, but we need price to go a little bit higher before we take those, okay? Or go to a 4-hour chart, one of the two, okay? All right, folks. Well, again, it's been great. We'll look forward to next week's session, but if any questions come up, text me, email me. Look forward to talking to you next week, folks. All right, take care, everybody. Bye now.